This is Freddy from We Scale Your Brand, where we help 6-figure and 7-figure e-commerce brands scale through Facebook ads. And today's video will be all about scaling, how to create a scaling campaign, what you need in order to create a scaling campaign, then how to scale up that exact scaling campaign. It will be a very fun video, so I would say let's dive right into it. So first questions, when it comes to scaling is basically, the campaign setup. What campaign setup should you have? And, should you use CBO or ABO, then the budget, and then the bidding model? And basically, for the first question, whether you should use CBO or ABO, we always use CBO when it comes to scaling up our campaigns. We might want to use, or you might want to use ABO for testing or for retargeting purposes, but that will be a different video. For scaling, we always have CBO in place in 99% of the cases. And then in terms of the budget, you want to place the budget so that each ad set that you have in your campaign can theoretically get out of the learning phase. So for an ad set to get out of the learning phase, you would need 50 conversions within a week. So basically, your average CPA times 50 times the amounts of ad sets that you have divided by 7, because that's the number of days, and that should be your daily budget. So if you have one ad set, your average CPA is $10. And that's 10 times 50, that would be 500. And then 500 divided by 7, whatever that is, that will be your daily budget for that one ad set campaign with one ad set. And then the bidding model, also super easy. Just leave it as it is, lowest cost. You don't want to experiment around with the bidding models when it comes to scaling. There are, other instances when you can use cost cap or bid cap, but I will be covering that in another video as well. Then the ad set setup is fairly simple as well. Basically, what kind of audiences you want to use are the audience that you already have tested, right? So before you want to scale up your ad account, or before you want to create a scaling campaign, you should have done some creative testing. So you should have created winners, and then within that testing campaign, you should also have tested one specific audience. If you don't know how to test audiences or how to test creatives, I have other videos that are probably linked somewhere around here, and then you can check those out first. But basically, you've done your creative testing, you have used one specific audience for that creative test, and you found some winners. So in terms of the audience, that is the exact audience that you want to use. You can start with one audience first. So if you only have one audience that you tested, just stick to that one audience first. And especially if it is a broad audience, like, I don't know, shoes, if you're selling shoes, and then you don't have to worry about any frequency stuff or like any, that you're spending too much. Just don't worry about it. You can scale up a campaign with one ad set in it or one audience in it. So attribution window, this depends on how many other traffic sources you have, what your budget is. If you are below 1,000 per day, I would 100% go for 7-day click, 1-day view. And simply because that gives Facebook the most amount of data that they can optimize for. So it makes it basically easier for Facebook to optimize your campaign. Then placements, I always use automatic placements. So no exclusions when it comes to placements. You want to, again, give Facebook the most amount of room possible for them to breathe. And, if you just randomly exclude some placements, that doesn't help Facebook at all. That was done previously, like 3 years ago, but you don't do that anymore. So just leave it on automatic placements. And then, exclusions, what type of audience, what do you want to exclude? You basically want to exclude the audiences that you are running retargeting ads for, nothing more. Because Facebook is very, very smart at, kind of retargeting on its own. And I also have another video for that. So if you want to check that out, like how to use exclusions, you can watch that as well. But basically, in short, you just want to exclude the people that you try to retarget. Then basically the ad setup, or, where I think most people get it wrong, when it comes to scaling, they just randomly throw ads in their scaling campaign and scale that one up. And then, hope for the best. At least that's what I've seen plenty of times. And that's exactly what you don't want to do, right? You have done your creative testing first. You have one creative winner or 2, maybe even 3. I probably wouldn't put more than 4 ads within one ad set. So, if you have 1 or 2 winners, that is perfectly fine. Ideal scenario would probably be 3 ads of different kinds. So you have one winning image, one winning video, maybe like one winning carousel or something along the lines of that. But again, if you have just one video that's winning and it's crushing it, then that's perfectly fine as well for the scaling campaign. So you want to make sure that you only use the ads that you've already tested. You've done your dynamic creative testing, you found your winning combination, and you put that in here. Again, so if you have only one ad, that's perfectly fine. You can scale up with one. You can even scale up like with one ad set and one audience. That works. So when it comes to the ad, make sure that in each ad set, every ad is the same. Basically, you can turn on and off ads in between different ad sets. So in your audience 1, maybe ad 2 doesn't work at scale. You've tested it, it worked in your testing campaign, but it doesn't work here. You just turn it off. And then in your testing audience 2, maybe ad 1 doesn't work for some reason, so just turn it off. You can have different ads running in different ad sets, but just make sure that initially, at the start, they have all the same ads in there. And then what you should pay most attention for is, using the post ID of that ad. So the post ID is basically what has the social proof, because if you just duplicate an ad between different ad sets, between different campaigns, oftentimes Facebook is still a bit buggy and they don't, capture the social proof, the engagement, all that kind of stuff. So you want to make sure that you use this post ID. If you don't know how to use a post ID, I probably have linked the video below that explains you how to get the post ID. But I think everybody knows how to get the post ID. And then how do you scale up that campaign? You've created your campaign. You have the exact budget that you need in order to get out of the learning phase, maybe a bit more just to be sure. And how do you get out of the learning phase? How do you scale up the campaign now? And that is extremely simple. You just add 10 to 20% of the budget. If your campaign is performing, you just add 10 to 20% every 48 hours. That is super safe. I think Facebook recommends, I don't know the exact number, but I think maximum of 20% change within 48 hours. Because if you scale up too fast, you get out of the learning phase again. So it goes back to the learning phase, not out of the learning phase. And you basically, what your first goal should be to get out of the learning phase with all of these ad sets that are in your scaling campaign. So again, 10 to 20%, just change the budget at the campaign level. You have CBO, just change it from like 100 to 120, and then you wait 48 hours, see if the results still stay stable. You just add another 20%, and then over time you can steadily increase the budget of that given campaign. And I think that is extremely simple. That's how we do it always. And then now, what should be your first goal when it comes to your scaling campaign? Especially if it's your first scaling campaign, your goal should be stability. And you don't want to chase the highest ROAS possible. You want to chase stability at your target CPA. So if your target CPA is, let's say, you're selling a $30 product and your target CPA is 15, so your double ROAS would be 2. So the first goal should be to get a steady 2 over like 2 weeks or 3 weeks at a higher scale than your testing campaign. So maybe, you've tested with like 200 per day and you've gotten tons of sales, your ad is stable, you create that scaling campaign. Maybe your first goal, in my opinion, should be to spend like 300 per day consistently at a 2x. Obviously, they're going to be day-by-day changes. One day you might get a 1x ROAS, the next day you might get a 3x ROAS. But overall, over a time frame of like 2 weeks, you should be getting a steady 2x. And that should be your first goal. Your first goal shouldn't be to like get to the 3x or like 4x or like 5x. Get stability first, and then you can check, what could I increase this scaling campaign? How can I make this ad better? Basically, to get more efficiency out of that current ad spend level. So basically, that's how you create a scaling campaign. That's how you scale up. It's extremely simple. Actually, that's probably the easiest part of Facebook ads, if I'm being honest. Just one quick note, if you're wondering why your ROAS decreases as you're scaling up, that is also quite simple. Law of diminishing returns. Basically, there are only a finite amount of people. So as an example, maybe there are like 100 people ready to buy your product every single day. And, for different prices. So one person might convert it like $10, the other one might convert it like 20, and then the next one might convert it 30. So basically, the lower your budget, the lower your cost per acquisition is going to be, because you're going to catch the low-hanging fruits first. And then, as it's getting up, it's always harder to reach, or it's more expensive to get those people that are higher up on the tree, basically. And that's why your ROAS goes down as you're scaling up. This is why also usually you can't get like 10x ROAS at scale, or like 15 or like 5x even. Usually good number, good ROAS number probably, if I would have to say an average across all of the accounts that we manage, probably like a 2 to 3x. If you're between those numbers and you have healthy profit margins, then you are really you have a really good starting point when it comes to scaling your Facebook campaigns. So yeah, I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments down below, and I'm going to see you in the next video. Bye.